I know that I've mentioned visibility in the past few tutorials that we covered on object-oriented programming. The time has finally come to see what it means. If you look at the classes that we've been creating so far, each property and method had the public visibility modifier attached to it. That means that everyone has access to it. The default visibility modifier is also public, so if we were to create any of the properties or functions and we omitted the public visibility modifier, it would have automatically defaulted to it. I like to place them in front of it for explicity's sake. We're gonna be modifying the classes in this tutorial to change the visibility of most, if not all, properties from public to private. Private visibility means that the method or property can only be accessed from within the class. So if we instantiate the class and try to access the property with the aid of the object operator, we will get an error. Methods inside the class will have the capability of accessing the private properties. There is one last visibility modifier, and even though I'll briefly talk about it, we still need a couple more tutorials to fully appreciate it. That is the protected visibility modifier. It acts like a private modifier in the sense that you can't access it outside of the class. So if we instantiate the class and use the object operator, we will not be able to use it. However, classes that inherit from the class containing the protected modifier will have access to it. We're going to be modifying our German Shepherd class to follow some simple inheritance. We'll create a new class called dog, and the German Shepherd class will inherit properties from the dog class. The properties in the dog class will be protected, so they'll only be usable inside the German Shepherd class. In this tutorial, we're only going to look at the private properties, and we'll come back to the protected properties shortly. We'll start off with our German Shepherd class. When we start looking at it, we can quickly see that none of these public properties need to be public. So we can change each one of these to private. Why don't they need to be public? Well, we can access them through other means, and we'll look at that later. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to copy over and we're going to change each public property to private. Each one of these has been changed to private. So the only way to access now our properties, our public or our private properties, is through the use of the public methods. So we'll say gsdog is equal to new German Shepherd, and it looks like we're going to have to pass a few properties like eye color, brown, date of birth, Jan 20th, 2018, and fur color, we'll say brown again. So now we can't call, for example, let's see what property or what method we have. We could call this get eye color method because it's returning this eye color. So now even though eye color is private, we can still return it through this method because the method itself is public. So if we say get eye color and then go to the browser and then open up our page, we can actually see this destructor that we're launching. So what I'm going to do first is comment out that destructor so we don't call it anymore, and because the eye color is also returned, we need to echo it out. So let's go back, hit refresh, and we get brown. Perfect. But what if we wanted to do it the other way? So let's try to get the eye color that way. So let's just make sure that is correct. It is eye color and it is private currently. So let's see what happens if we try to echo out the eye color directly. We get this error. It says uncaught error, cannot access private property on line 100, which is what we were trying to do. So the only way to access it would be through a public method like what we did up here. So just like our German Shepherd class up there, we're going to be modifying each one of these public properties to private. So like I said, there's absolutely no need to have these accessible publicly when we can access them privately. Why? Well, we can use specific methods to return the values that we want, and once we're actually setting or modifying the properties, we can again use methods for specific checks, but that's the topic of the next tutorials. Currently, we just wanted to look at accessibility or visibility modifiers, and we can see that we've changed all of our public properties to private. which means that we can access these turn on, for example. We can access all of these inside here. We can access our turn off function. We can also access our drive function. Now, I know we talked about public properties, but we can also convert our public function into a private function as long as it's not used outside of the class. Actually, not a function, but a method. Once a method is not used outside of the class and it's only used to aid other methods, like for example inside here, that method is actually called a helper method. So what we want to do is we want to convert this helper method from public access to private access, because the only purpose that it has is just returning the make and model that are going to be used throughout our methods up here. Now, if we wanted to make this accessible throughout, even inside and outside, then yeah, we can still keep it public. And even though it serves as a helper method, it also serves as a regular method. But for demonstration purposes, we'll just set this to private currently, and we'll say that this method is a private method or a helper method. So we'll say, for example, Chevy is equal to new car, and it's going to be 1997 Chevy Camaro. So let's use that one. And then we could say stuff like Chevy turn on. We could even say Chevy drive and Chevy turn off. So let's call all of those methods. Each of these methods actually return the string. So what we're going to have to do is echo each one of them out just like before. All right, let's go to the browser, hit refresh. So there it is, connection successfully established, which is in our constructor. So that's called first, followed by Chevy Camaro has been turned on, followed by I'm driving the Chevy Camaro, I'm driving, and then the Chevy Camaro has been turned off, followed by connection successfully closed, because that's in our destructor method. But now let's see again what happens if we try to access. Let's try to access that private method. So get make and model, I believe it's called. Let's double check. Get make and model. So if we go over here, hit refresh, you can see that we get the same kind of error, call to private, but this time method, line 225. But what if we wanted to have access to each of our properties? How about modify them? Well, that's where getters and setters come into play, and we'll cover those next.